U.S. President Donald Trump never criticizes Russian President Vladimir Putin, but the Pentagon is doing just that.
Moscow retains a large stockpile of non-strategic nuclear weapons and continues to modernize those as well as its strategic systems.
This report says aggression from Russia, concerns about China and North Korea, and potentially Iran are the reasons the U.S. needs to modernize its nuclear weapons. And it's changing the wording on when it could use them, saying the U.S. could use nuclear weapons in extreme circumstances to defend the vital interests of the U.S. What's new is they added this line: extreme circumstances could include significant non-nuclear strategic attacks. The military was asked to clarify what that means.
Would that also involve the employment of biological weapons against the U.S. population or allies? Would it involve the use of chemical weapons against our people? Would it involve a conventional attack in other parts of the world? The context in which an attack occurred on the United States or our allies would be how we would evaluate the appropriate response.
The plan also calls for modernizing the nuclear arsenal. That's something the last administration wanted to do, and at the time they said it was going to cost more than $1 trillion over 30 years. This plan would undoubtedly be even more expensive, and that has not been something that Congress has been really willing to fund at this point. The U.S. also wants to build a new kind of weapon, a nuclear warhead with less impact. But critics say that could make nuclear war more likely.
They are literally having weapons that give the president more options to start a nuclear war. And that is incredibly dangerous, particularly when you have this president, who we all know is impetuous, irrational, and not always in sound mind.
Recently, 3 high-ranking former diplomats went to Capitol Hill with a warning that the massive destructive force of a nuclear weapon was no longer appreciated or even feared by some.
In those days, people seemed to have an appreciation of what would be the result of a nuclear weapon ever used. I fear people have lost that sense of dread.
The U.S. under President Trump is trying to improve its nuclear arsenal and the potential reasons to use it. They say in order to improve the odds, it won't have to. Patty Culhane, Al Jazeera, Washington.